Hey guys, I'm back. This is Chainsaw Man episode 2. Another incredible episode. Some people are saying that they prefer this over episode 1. I love action animation, so I still love episode 1. I think people are really undervaluing episode 1's quality because it is one of the best pilot episodes I've ever seen. Like, the best one is still One Punch Man's pilot episode. The final fight scene had Yoshimichi Kamera's best work, followed immediately by Norifumi Kugai's best work. But Chainsaw Man is not far behind. It has an incredible first episode, and the second episode is also very good. So I'm going to structure this video a little bit better. I'm going to start by talking about stuff that I missed from the previous episode, and most of that stuff comes in the opening. So I'll talk about that first so that I don't forget about it. Then I'll talk about the manga comparisons, because I am reading the manga chapters that correspond to the portion that the episode adapted, the anime episode adapted, immediately after the anime episode airs. Then I'm going to talk about things in the episode that are not part of the animation, so the story and the characters and stuff, because, you know, this is also a review video. The title of the video is Animation Analysis plus Review, but I'm usually so engrossed in the animation that I forgot the review part. But I do feel like with this episode especially, Chainsaw Man has reached a level where I cannot just say, yeah, this has incredible animation, but nothing more than that. Because this does have something more than that. The characters and the world, they were really intriguing. I really want to talk about that. And finally, we'll get to the scene-by-scene breakdown of the animation. Okay, so the first thing, the opening. This first cut, where Denji pulls the thing, that's done by Ryu Nakayama. And Ryu Nakayama is the series director. I thought it was pretty cool that the very first sequence of the opening is done by the series director. And the painting in the background, in this episode, you can see this painting on Makima's office wall. I'm not going to go into detail or look into detail as to what that painting is, because if I figure out what that painting is, I think it could lead to a spoiler in a way, because I do think that is foreshadowing for something that's to come. But what I do want to look at though is that in this cut by Ryu Nakayama, the foreground of his animation is matching the art style of the background. Chainsaw Man, the character designs in Chainsaw Man have very little detail when it comes to skin and body, whether it's line work or shadows. That is how it's in the manga as well. There's very little detail with skin, but a lot of detail with clothing and eyes, which is carried into the anime as well. The character designer of the anime is the same as the character designer of Mushoku Tensei, really talented guy. But Ryo Nakayama is changing the script here. You see a ton of hatching. You won't get to see that in the anime a lot. But yeah, it's only done for this one cut to match the art style of the background. And I thought that was very cool, especially because this was animated by Nakayama, the series director. And the cut after that is the next one I'm going to talk about. This whole cut is CGI. Everything here is CGI, I'm pretty sure. Even the pole that goes past the screen, probably CGI. It looks great, and the reason it looks great, I thought, was because this is Shingo Yamashita, and Shingo Yamashita is a master of 2D, 3D blending. But I looked into who animated the scene, and it's Shota Goshizono. So, I do think that Shingoyama was involved with the scene. Obviously, he's the director of the opening, but the CGI work here probably was done by Shota Goshizono himself. Shota Goshizono is a really popular upcoming animator right now. I do consider him as the future king of webgen animators. He also directed the 2 best looking episodes of Osama Ranking, one of which is the best animated episode of 2022 so far. Yes, Osama Rankings episode 21, that is better than Chainsaw Man's first episode. That is better than Demon Slayer Yukokuhen's 10th episode. Osama Ranking episode 21 is the best episode of 2022 so far. If you're a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, you need to remember this name. I'm not gonna get into details as to why, but I'll give you hints. Sungo Park is leaving Jujutsu Kaisen's production. There needs to be a different director now. And Shota Goshizono did direct 2 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. Both of them looked incredible. The second one being the second best animated episode in the entirety of the show. Shota Goshizono is known for his incredible CGI work that he does himself, which makes his episode stand out compared to the rest. And he's also known for his unique fisheye effect that just gives the storyboards life. And now that I've talked about Shota Goshizono's style, look at Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2's key visual. So yeah, if my prediction is right, then Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is in very good hands. I think Shota Goshizono will do an incredible job with that season. That said, I could be just completely wrong as well. Next is this scene I want to talk about. Not this scene, this is Tamalu's scene. I already extensively broke it down in the previous video. But this is when Denji gets tossed around. I want you to look carefully at the holes he leaves behind as he crashes through the walls, right? Breaks through. Really cool effects animation too, right? Yeah, gorgeous smoke animation. Anyway. He breaks through, look at the print that he leaves behind. That says C. Next one, boom. That's an S. And then the last one, boom. That's an M. So really cool detail there that you would only notice if you went by it frame by frame. I think it was pointed out by one of the person commenting in Sakuga. I didn't notice that myself, but when he pointed it out and I watched that, then I was like, yeah, that's right. That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, Shingoyama, my vocabulary simply isn't good enough to praise this man. Okay, so now let's talk about the manga comparisons. The main complaint that I heard was that the episode couldn't capture the essence of Chainsaw Man manga, and it's because it's tonally different. It's because all of the goofy scenes in the manga so far have been played out completely straight in the anime, and honestly, I love it. I don't think I've laughed this much watching an episode since episode 9 of Hinamatsuri, and the scene in Mob Psycho where Reagan uses self-defense rush. The scene where Denji is talking about his dream of grabbing boobs. The only reason I found that so funny is because the anime was playing it completely straight. Like if Denji turned into a fucking chibi figure there and if there were funny sound effects, that would have ruined the scene for me. Every time something like that happens, especially in Jujutsu Kaisen, the humor there is one of my biggest complaints about the show. I don't like it when they use chibi characters or just tone-deaf goofiness for humor. To me, it just removes any bit of comedy that would have been there. Of course, I'm not saying that you should never do that. Like episode 2 of Mob Psycho season 3 is like the best example of humor being funny because of the way it's animated. But for a show like Chainsaw Man, I do feel like playing it entirely straight was the right thing to do because the characters have a sense of realism to it and the world also has a sense of realism to it. Keeping it tonally consistent, whether it's extreme gore or extreme humor, I think is the right choice. It's one of the main complaints I have with Vinland Saga as well. It's just such a dark, gritty, realistic world. And then for some of the humor sequences, the character end up looking like this. And yeah, not only is it not funny, it also just takes me out of the experience a bit. So yeah, I'm glad that Chainsaw Man is keeping the tone consistent. I'm glad that it's not a Marvel show. But that said, I do think that's a subjective thing. Now let's talk about content because there's a little bit of cut content from the manga here. That the anime, the episode, it flowed fluidly, seamlessly. I didn't really think that there was something missing here, but there is stuff missing from the manga. There's a whole fight with the muscle devil that wasn't adapted in the anime. Mainly, I'm guessing it's because of pacing. They wanted to keep the pacing consistent with the anime episode, whereas for the manga, it's one chapter that you're releasing, right? So you want that chapter to have something exciting or you want action to be there in that episode or the chapter. That said, that piece of the manga was actually really good. It kind of changed Denji's perspective about demons a little bit. It is also what Denji and Makima's conversation revolves around. Although that conversation is kept the same in the anime, but without the context of that fight. And yeah, again, if you're an anime only, there's absolutely no problem. I watched this episode as an anime only. I didn't have any issues. Even if I was a manga reader, I wouldn't really care about how this scene was adapted. I do believe that anime creators need to have a good level of creative control and that adapting the manga one-to-one must not be their main goal. Like, let's take Mob Psycho 100 for example. The anime deviated quite a bit from the manga for the Mogami arc, especially episode 5 of the anime, which was also one of the best episodes of Mob Psycho 100. So yeah, that's the point. It's deviated from the manga quite a bit, but through their sheer quantity and quality of animation, and also the way the story was handled in episode 5, it was still a masterpiece of an episode for anime onlys. But for manga readers, yeah, there's some stuff missing from the manga, they changed some stuff, so they can be upset, it's justified. Now let's talk about the episode itself. I really enjoyed it. I already love all of the characters. Like the way Makima is manipulating Denji, it's kind of obvious, but there's a lot of mystery surrounding our Makima, which I like a lot. I also really like Aki's character. I'm pretty sure a lot of people just watched this episode and just was like, yeah, that's another Sasuke clone. I always enjoy subtle details, whether it's visuals or storytelling. And it's one of the reasons why My Hero Academia just kind of ends up being obnoxious. For every single payoff of anything, we have to also look at the flashback of that scene. There's absolutely no subtlety when it comes to My Hero Academia storytelling. It's also why Jujutsu Kaisen Zero's pacing felt a little bit off, because they were showing us flashbacks of scenes that happened like literally 2 minutes ago. You don't need that. But they did that to fill in for time because it's a pretty short movie already. I wish they'd gone for a different approach though. Like I'd wish they'd extended the fights to make up for the runtime. Like maybe show us the Todo versus Special Grade fight or Maki's fight against Geto. But yeah, back to Chainsaw Man. There's a good bit of subtle storytelling here, like when Aki is lecturing Denji about having empathy towards demons. And then Denji says, yeah, if there's a demon that is worth being friends with, that's fine with being friends with, I'll be friends with it. And yeah, Denji has done that in the past. He was friends with Pochita. And Aki's reply to that is that I'll remember that. And when you see that, it almost looks like a threat. But in the very next episode, Denji is partnered with the devil. Or well, a fiend, a pseudo-devil. But yeah, it's very easy to chalk that up as a coincidence, or maybe think of that the same way Denji is thinking about that Aki is making life difficult for Denji. And also another scene where Aki asks Denji if he's never been to school, and Denji's answer is, yeah, I've never been to school, not even elementary school. And instead of making fun of him or ridiculing him, which we see so much in anime, Aki just explains everything in a very good voice. And I just like that so much. As for the other scenes, I'll just talk about it when I get there. So let's begin the analysis. This shot is amazing. The eye detail is gorgeous. The reflection of what she's looking at, it's so good. It is a compositing effect, and not only is it's not just showing what she's looking at as like a slideshow, it does have a little bit of a fish eye effect to it. Edges of the trees here, yeah, they are distorted because of the fish eye effect, because it's being reflected off someone else's eye. And as she closes her eye, you see the shadow of her eyelashes as well. The detail is absolutely extraordinary. And now we get a reflection of her face on the car itself. And again, this has to be a separate drawing, because you can't really tell a computer that, hey, I've drawn this image, so now you reflect that image here. You can't really do that. You have to draw another face in a way that fits the perspective as well, because from a different perspective, her reflection will look different. And you will see something similar in Jujutsu Kaisen 0 as well, like this scene where Geto is just walking over the pool of Maki's blood. Geto's reflection was drawn separately. I'm pointing this stuff out because it's stuff that most people just don't even think about when they watch anime. Like reflections, they have to be drawn separately. And what's especially impressive that it also moves. When she moves here, the perspective in the reflection moves accordingly. The sequence here where Makima is taken off her coat is just fluid, so fluid for no reason. Well, there is a reason. The team is striving for perfection, and when you're striving for perfection, you gotta do stuff like this. And again, look at the subtle animations, right? Like Denji is standing here, and the string, it's moving. It's moving a little bit, just a little bit. Similarly, Makima's hair. Look at her hair here. Her hair is moving very slowly. You'll see that better in the next cut. Here, it's much easier to notice her hair movement here. But the fact that her hair is also moving here, who the fuck would see that? It's so hard to even see that her hair is moving here, but they did it anyway, which is just crazy to me. The fact that they would go above and beyond just to add a little, just couple of frames of animation to something that people wouldn't even notice. And again, you see her reflection here. That is a separately drawn face, for sure, right? Obviously, yeah. I mean, her lips and stuff, they're not protruding here, they are protruding here. I thought it was a mirrored image first, but no, it's completely a redrawn face over there, which is just composited to make it look like it's a reflection. Next is the scene. There's nothing particularly impressive about it. It's a good scene, but yeah, the reason I have to talk about this is because Pochita is in it. Again, this is another scene that is really, really well animated. Yeah, that's just fantastic. I really don't want to call Makima cute just yet. She's fucking hot though, and they're also perfectly animating the mouth. The lip sync is perfect to the words that she's saying, which, you know, most anime don't do that. It's just usually just that up and down motion. But Chainsaw Man is going above and beyond to animate every single syllable. That's very kind of common in Western shows, even Invincible, not a particularly impressive looking show, but even there, every syllable is perfectly animated with the mouthing. And the same can be said for high-profile anime shows, usually movies, but even just TV anime, where the episodes are going for that full Sakuga look, you will see that the mouthing is just animated perfectly. And in Chainsaw Man, it is. I do have a doubt though, if you know about this, then please do tell me. Like, is the voice line recorded first, or is it animated first, and the voice actor voices the lines accordingly? If I had to guess, it would be the former. Like, they voice the lines first and then the animator does the mouthing accordingly. They can animate everything else. They just animate the mouthing last after the voice acting is done. As for dub voice actors, obviously they are going to voice act after the mouthing is done, which is why dub voice acting is so awkward and difficult to do, because you have to voice your lines in a way that matches the movement of the mouth. Next is this scene. Again, phenomenal character acting. It's almost a one-to-one adaptation of the manga panel, which also looks really good. It's also kind of sad, but it's also funny, so it's fine. And here, right? Look at Denji's eyes. The light bubble. There's one light bubble. When he closes his eyes, and when he opens it, now there are two light bubbles. And the light bubbles that did exist before, it's much bigger now. So this gives that effect of puppy dog eyes. As I mentioned, in anime, everything is an illusion. This is something that I don't know why our brain works this way, but it does look like he has puppy dog eyes when he opens them, right? All they did was add another light bubble. What's really impressive though is the animator understanding that the viewer will interpret the scene a particular way. Also, like some of the scenes in Jujutsu Kaisen, let's take the scene by Tatsuya Yoshihara, for example. You can see that Denji's eyes are just pulsing, and that gives off the idea that he's extremely angry right now. Even though that doesn't really happen in real life. It's only something that happens in anime, but it still gets the point of anger across. I also love this scene. What I want to point out is not the animation, but the compositing. She says that, "You are my type. I'm into the Denji type." And as she says that, look at the sun ray, right? That's literally light coming into Denji's world. The sunlight does not add extra shadows, I don't think so. No, it just makes the colors that do exist much more lighter, and it makes the colors pop out even more. And this compositing, this lighter tone of compositing, stays throughout the rest of this episode. In episode 1, which was much more dark and grim, the compositing fit according to that, like it showed the grim world that Denji lived in, especially this scene. It almost looks monochrome. But in this episode, Denji is living his dream life, and the compositing fits accordingly, much more vibrant, and yeah, every color pops out very well. As I say that, I go to the next cut. Fantastic art direction. Look at that. It is so gorgeous. I mean, this is what you get by working with one of the best art directors in the industry currently. I would say this guy and the person who's the art director for Osama Ranking, forgot their name, I'll put it out on screen though. Those two are like the leading art directors among a bunch of other art directors. They're all great. There are a bunch of great ones, but these two in particular I love a lot. The scene is also really good. The cloth animation is great. The background characters are almost entirely 2D, and they all look completely different. The cars and the extreme background, which is completely blurred out, those characters are probably CGI. It's very hard to tell because they're so blurred out, but just from the movements, it looks like CGI movements. But as for the foreground characters, that is a lot of characters that the animator drew by hand. This might even be a CGI structure, like the pillars here, and the floor might be CGI, because in the next cut, you can see that, yeah, that actually looks like fluid CGI movements, and that's got to be the best looking CGI background ever. Just look at these textures. In the shot, Aki is slightly tilted towards the left, as if he's repulsed by the guy who's standing next to him. And also Denji not having his tie. Of course, he does not know how to tie a tie, right? In the manga, this scene, he's actually wearing a proper tie. This allows them to animate the scene where Makima is tying Denji's tie. And this is an anime original scene. And the sequence is, again, so well animated for no reason. They definitely used reference for this. I refuse to believe that they animated without reference for this cut. And the tie is also pulling Denji's collar, and his cloth wrinkles shift accordingly to that. Here again, the crowd looks really good. They're not necessarily animated because, I mean, just still images moving, right? Except these two guys are fully animated. Even they have facial expression. Wow, crowd characters that have facial expressions. That's fucking rare. They even have hair settle animation. Jeez, this guy's hair is moving. Okay. Again, their hair, it moves with every single step. And it's not only them, some of the background characters like this chick over here, her hair is also moving with every step. Gosh, it's so amazing. Now's the fight between Aki and Denji. This is a really cool shot. Love the smears used here. And then like this pose is just super energetic. It's no trigger pose or anything, but yeah, the perspective is still on point here. And also the detail in the garbage bags. These are not animated garbage bags. This is part of the art direction. It's a painting, part of the painting. But when he gets kicked and now he falls in the garbage bag, so he's interacting with the garbage bags. So they have to be animated, and they are animated. And the level of detail on them, the folds, all that stuff, fantastic. And the shift also between the bags being part of the art direction to then being part of the animation is flawless. Everything from here is done by Tatsuya Yoshihara. And as I said way back when I've watched the PV for the first time, yeah, this is Tatsuya Yoshihara's project. In episode 1, he did some of the best cuts, like the best action sequence. And in this episode, there are few action sequences, So he's doing the character acting instead, and he did two sequences of character acting. The smoke animation is fantastic, and as he flicks the cigarette forward, the smoke, it cuts through the smoke line. So the smoke there has dissipated properly. And of course, as he's flicking it, you also see the smears on his fingers. Another extremely fluid sequence of Aki lighting a cigarette. And just as he lights his cigarette, the really soft colors of the lighter flame on his face, the nose here, and his cheek, especially because it's on his cheek too. Because if you see here, his face is a flat texture, right? There's no texture of his cheek. If you look at my cheek, you can see that it is curved. But if you compare my cheek to Aki's cheek, it's completely different, because Aki's cheek, it does not look like anything is protruding out. But when he lights the cigarette, you can see the colors reflecting off of his cheek. So when you notice that, your brain goes, wait a minute. Of course, he has a cheek too. This portion of his face is protruding out. And then the sequence is just Denji running forward. Again, awesome Yoshihara smears. Yoshihara likes to flaunt his smears. He doesn't like to hide them, because fuck hiding your smears. Need in the nuts. Wow. And you get the ting sound effect there, which is the only time a comical sound effect has been used in the entirety of Chainsaw Man so far. And Aki's facial expression here gets the pain across. The way he tumbles and falls forward, that looks like he's dead. That looks like someone shot him and he's fucking dead. Which, of course, is very accurate. If you're a guy, you know what getting kicked in the nuts feels like. And every time he's kicked in the nuts, it's accompanied by a camera shake. Just look at the background, right? There's a good bit of camera shake. They didn't even use this much camera shake in the action sequences in the previous episode, because, well, when someone is getting kicked in the nuts, it actually has area of effect damage. Like, if you see someone get kicked in the nuts, it also hurts your nuts. That's actual, real-life area of effect damage. And yeah, the pain is just conveyed perfectly across with every facial expression, every drawing of Aki's face here. And this is what I was talking about. They're playing comical scenes completely straight, which just makes it much more funny, at least to me. And yeah, another added effect of that eye twitch conveys the pain even more. Again, with this cut, when you move outside, with this perspective, you hear the ambient noises in the street, because now the microphone is placed outside. Again, stellar art direction, stellar compositing here. This looks different from the beginning, right? Yeah, this compositing looks different from this. This actually looks like early morning. The compositing is much colder here. The colors pop out a lot more. Here, the compositing is a lot more warmer and gets the feeling of sunset across. So they did sunrise and sunset, and the coloring is just completely different for it. The compositing, not the coloring, is completely different from it. Again, fantastic work with the animating the crowds. Just so many individual characters drawn like that. The top-down shot is full CGI. Do I see Denji here? Okay, there is a CGI model for Aki and Denji as well. And yeah, the detail on the toast, people have been pointing out ever since the PV, and I mean the very first pre-animated PV. If you look at the comparison of this to the PV though, you'll see that they are different. Even in the PV, and here it was animated by the same person, it was animated by K.V. Lin. So I guess there's some sort of an unwritten rule that you're not supposed to reuse the segments from the PV into the main show, because it's animated by the same person. It almost looks entirely identical, but it is still completely reanimated for the TV version. There's also, of course, another shot of Power jumping off the building. Again, looks very similar to the version of the PV, but it is entirely reanimated. So the version of the PV is also probably animated by the same person who did the animation in this episode, but none of that has been confirmed, so I'm just talking out of my ass here. These smears actually remind me of Keiichiro Watanabe's smears. I'm not saying he animated this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Nah, just that one smear, it looked a lot like Keiichiro Watanabe's smears. Yeah, like the bubbly edges on the arms, and the hands, the palm. Yeah. The storyboard for this sequence though is by Toko Yatabe, and the storyboards and the shot compositions are all very similar to how it was in the first episode, which is that, you know, they're just going for that moody vibe as if it's shot by an actual camera. But what is different though is the way the storyboarding is done. Ryu Nakayama's storyboards have very little detail written on it in terms of the action and the dialogue, but for the picture itself, the drawings themselves are extremely highly detailed. He conveys the emotion and the character faces more with the drawings than he does with his writing. Like some of these faces in his storyboards almost look like keyframes. They are one-to-one to the character designs. Toko Yatabe, on the other hand, has a much more scribbly style. The characters are very simplified. All the detail is very simplified. That's how storyboards usually are. That said, look at the amount of information that he gives with the action and the dialogue. There is so much in writing that he gives information to the animator. So I just thought that was pretty cool with the difference between Ryu Nakayama and Toko Watabe's storyboards. Even though their storyboards are similar looking, the way they make those storyboards are completely different. The shot with Aki with his hair down, again an anime original shot. The manga just has panels of Aki's face getting increasingly more frustrated. Here it actually shows him with context to the scene of him getting frustrated. So I really like how the anime did this. Again, pretty cool shot of the background. Really good art direction. Again, with these reflections, man. The door closing and the reflection of that on the floor. The wood is highly polished, so it reflects really well. It even reflects it at a particular angle to simulate real life. This is one of the 3 action sequences of this episode, and this was animated by Shinsaku Kozuma. And as for the action itself, it's just Denji swinging his axe animated in once, I think. The action is not what's very impressive to me. In fact, it's the character acting again. The character acting with this fiend. It's so well done. I really enjoy it. It looks really good. The motions look really nice. And the way his pincers are moving. Yeah, when he's opening his mouth wide, his pincers also move accordingly. And that is something that you have to make out of imagination, because you can't use reference for that. You can't use reference for a human who has pincers on how his pincers move when he talks. And that's just the beauty of anime. You have to use real life physics and use real life references to then animate something that's completely born out of imagination. And yeah, just the roll of his head, really well done. Love it. Aki bangs Denji's head onto the glass window. The shadows on the window are animated accordingly. As you can see here, the shadows on the window move. There's another better example coming later, but yeah, just wanted to point that out. Again, this is not a mirrored reflection. I don't think so. No, his hair looks different. This is another Denji drawn here. I wish we could get the genga for stuff like this, because it would be really cool to see Aki holding 2 Denjis. Love the shot here. The sense of scale is just perfect. The size of this guy, the exact size that you would expect to see from the shot. So many shows miss out on this and do this wrong. Jujutsu Kaisen is a good example. They sometimes just don't do the perspectives right. Even One Punch Man, look at this cut, and that's just completely unnatural perspective. Either Genos is like the size of an ant, or those buildings are extraordinarily humongous. So even shows at high profile as One Punch Man might miss out on getting the perspectives right. But I mean, yeah, this show is perfect in every way possible. And Denji says that he's fine with befriending devils. And Aki does this small eye twitch here, just one small eye twitch. The subtlety reminds me of 86, where Shin does an eye twitch as well. 86 has a lot of subtle character acting segments. I'll remember that. We only see his feet. We don't see his face. I wonder if these are real companies. Probably not. But anyway, these drawings, they look really good because an animator actually had to draw them. Also the posters in the background. Where is it? I'll put up the genga for it right now, and you can see that it's by Minami Seki. And Minami actually had to draw these characters, which then was colored and then composited to make it look like they are posters on the wall, and also like magazine covers. Especially here, right? This must be so hard. Yeah, this is still one of the drawings that Minami Seki did. And Denji is holding it between his arm and his body. And it's just still composited in a way to look like it's the magazine's cover. We see Aki say that, I'll remember that. This is Denji's POV. This is what he just saw. But we didn't get to see that. And so many anime, again, they miss out on this. If you're showing the imagery of someone's monologue, you have to show that from their perspective. And this does it perfectly. Another gripe that I have, small gripe that I have, it shows is the camera. Let's say Haikyuu, in the tournaments, there's an actual camera. And when they're showing replays, they just reuse the same sequence that was shown to us. But those shots are not even possible with a physical camera. But again, it's understandable as to why they're doing that. They can't just reanimate the whole segment from a realistic camera's point of view. That is just double the effort, literally double the effort. But yeah, Chainsaw Man, it does it. Takes that extra step. And the way Denji says, yeah, he's probably on some revenge shit. I laughed so much when I heard that. It just came out of nowhere. And it was just so fucking funny. He's got to be after some revenge shit. I mean, yeah, obviously, almost breaking the fourth wall there. And yeah, Denji wants to grab some titties. That's his dream. Love the animation here with the curtains, with the way Denji's moving. Love the natural motions of him practicing on grabbing boobies. Just perfectly played out, completely straight in such a comedic sequence. And again, we get another shot of everyone is serious about this except you. Aki saying that. And the first time we saw that, this is not how we saw that. This is a completely new shot this is not even Denji's POV anymore. This is Denji's imagination now. So it's another shot. Next is Power's entrance, almost entirely animated in once by Tatsuya Yoshihara. The sequence and the sequence, yeah, fully animated in once. Love the background movement, also done in once, obviously. If foreground is animated in once and background is animated in twos, that looks extremely ugly. So I'm glad that the background is animated in ones as well. And yeah, her hair movement, her cloth movement, and the shadows of the window falling on her body. Phenomenal work by Tatsuya Yoshihara. Some classic Yoshihara spiky smears here. Stomp, and her shoelaces have inertia. Of course her shoelaces have inertia. Of course her shoelaces have to move. Fuck. But anyway, the shot is just crazy good. We see a full view of her body. Just really good character acting. Yoshihara is amazing at character acting. It's something that I don't even think about sometimes, that of course, these guys are top tier action animators. Like, they have all the principles of animation perfected. So obviously they're going to be good with character acting. But you don't really think about that because these animators almost always only do action animation, except Toshiyuki Sato. He does an equal amount of action animation and character acting. But all of these action animators would also be amazing character acting animators, like Yutaka Nakamura animating on Kekkai Sensen. And then Aki turns around, looks at him with this expression, almost as if, yeah, this was the right decision. I was right to put these two together because, as I said before, Power is probably discriminated against a lot by everyone else in the group because she's a devil. And I don't think anyone wants to be with Denji either. So yeah, Aki's just a really good guy. And this is a rarity in anime where the female main character of the group is even goofier than the main character. They're really making you like the character via the animation. Like, she moves like a cat, if that makes sense. Her hair has a lot of detail and it flows so much. And the slap, pop. What are those smears? Those smears look really cool. Nothing like Yoshihara smears. Sort of like Matsumoto's cool smears. I don't like how this shot was done. Like, she says, find me something to kill. And then we see a cat. So, of course, they're not going to kill the cat. The first PV where Power is playing with a cat. And also her cat-like motions. She probably loves cats. But it's still kind of weird how she asked for something to kill and the shot moved immediately to a cat. It's fine. Just a tiny nitpick, if that. I love her. She's like a kid. She's cute, like how a kid is. With these two officers, you again see their reflection because why the fuck not? I guess Studio Mappa just got an early copy of RTX 4090. Again, I love this. I love how when Power is doing that. So goofy and cute at the same time. Love her eyes as well. I don't know about the secrets of the eyes yet. So far, we've seen Makima and her, Power, with unique eyes. Aki does not have any special eyes. At least I didn't really get to see anything. And Denji's eyes also don't look special. It was the same when he was just a regular guy and now Devilman. Let's call him a Devilman. But Power and Makima have unique eyes. I'm assuming Makima is also some sort of a devil. Again, this goofy scene is played completely straight. Yeah, Power gets a scent and she gets ready and Kensuke Ushio's music just comes fucking punching in like a goddamn train. It's so good. Have I mentioned I like Kensuke Ushio? I love his music. And again, awesome parkour sequences. Parkour needs to be a tag on Sakuga Boru. The tags I want are chains. Chains is a really good tag, I think. And parkour. Okay, so chain animation is actually part of a pool, but there's no pool or tag for parkour. Unless I'm misspelling parkour. I might be doing that, but hey, English is not my first language. And if you want to correct my English, go ahead. Like in the previous video, I had one of the comments that said I'm pronouncing intestine wrong, and I checked it, and yeah, I was pronouncing it as intestine, and that sounds stupid now that I know the right pronunciation, which is intestine. This is how I learned English so well. I've never had any professional coaching. I've never even left India, but the reason I have this accent, the reason I'm pretty decent at English is because a lot of people corrected me. And I took that as constructive criticism because that's what it is. So if you want to correct my English, feel free. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Again, some really cool smears here. Again, Watanabe-esque smears, really. but then it switches to these spiky smears that Watanabe almost never uses. So I'm thinking that's just corrections by the action director, maybe yeah, it's Tatsuya Yoshihara's corrections, but I don't know for sure. Again, the camera placement is here awesome, and this guy also has a sword, so I do guess he's a devil hunter as well, but he's just too low level to kill it. And then here comes William Lee's animation. The perspective again is perfect with the art direction. You can see the train and the ground here. She's very high, so the train is very small. The background movement also fantastic with the shot. She jumps off. The movement of hair and clothes is just a ridiculous amount of movement. I think the blood is coming out of her wrist, where there's a lot of blood pressure, so it just explodes out. She makes a hammer, and when she does make a hammer, here there's digital blood, which is just done perfectly, right? Like these blood particles over here is hand-drawn blood, whereas everything else is digital. I think this digital blood, yeah, they're making it look like the digital blood is dissolving into 2D blood and then just dissolving away completely, which is crazy. They've mastered the utilization of digital blood, I'd say. And they have shadows here. It actually looks like solid liquid or well solidified liquid, which is what makes it look so good. Awesome smears, close-up of her eye, looks so sick. So this is again completely reanimated. This is done by William Lee. And William Lee, I will talk about him later once I break down the sequence. Look how much the model of the, what was the thing again? Sea cucumber. Look how much the model of the sea cucumber devil is being crushed here, right? The entire height of the screen. This is the only portion that it's not covering. So from here to here, power fits it, and it goes all the way to almost to the halfway point of the screen. So it's getting crushed to half its size. All of its volume is getting crushed to the volume that is now half of its original size. Now the meat is just spreading in all directions, and the meat just mixes in with his body, fuses in with his body again. The shock is moving through the body. Right now here, this portion is very fat because power hit the top portion. So that's where the shock is. And now it's at the bottom. The bottom is now very thick, but the top is kind of slimmer now. So now what this would do is release all that energy and throw power away. Power will just bounce off. But since power is so strong, that energy has no release, and so it fucking explodes. So well animated. I love it. I don't love the blurring all that much though I do think it's done to hide the digital effects. Like some of this might be digital effects. Then again, I don't know because it's blurred out so much. How many frames? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 frames are blurred. Okay, there are 3 drawings. 3 drawings that are blurred out. In motion, there's absolutely no issue here. The blur is not all that intrusive as it is in Jujutsu Kaisen or like Attack on Titan. This is totally fine. Yeah, the energy is also really well transferred, holding that hit for a lot of frames and then releasing it spontaneously. Again, with the glass pane animation that I was talking about when Denji's head was banged against the window by Aki. Here you can see the glass pane, the shadows keep moving. Here the shadows aren't moving anymore, but this finger comes and hits the pane, and now look at the shadows. That's changed again. That's another finger, hits the pane, and the shadows shift again. This is done by an animator. This is not a compositing effect, not an art direction effect. Also the liquid motion, obviously, really well done. I know we're supposed to find her scary here, but honestly, she gives me more of Chunibyo vibes. She's like a Chunibyo who's also living out the Chunibyo fantasy. The shot of Denji is also really cool. The thing that I found cool about this is that such a faraway shot, but his thigh is still animated. I don't even think you can see that here. I'll make the screen bigger for you guys. And if I skip frames, you can see that his thigh is in fact moving. When you do the close-up, of course his thigh is animated and his hair is, and his clothes are moving too with the wind. Anyway, talking about William Lee, this goes back to the idea of Chainsaw Man being just such an insane project. William Lee was one of the main, if not the main animator, the main Sakuga animator for Komi-san. He did great work in the opening and season 1. He also did amazing work in the final episode, which was the best episode of the entirety of Komi-san. The animation was just amazing. Komi-san is not really a show where you would expect to see a lot of impact frames, but it does have impact frames, and some of the best ones were by William Lee. And his background animation is just fucking incredible. Here you don't get to see all that much background animation, or well, any background animation. There's only a CGI background, and you don't get to see impact frames either, which honestly, you could use impact frames here. Demon is getting squished, Devil is getting squished, Orban is exploding. You could have used impact frames. So that's why I guess his name is still under speculation. It's only presumed that he animated that scene. It's not confirmed. But with everything else, the way the motions are done with the smears and the timing of the movements, it does look like William Lee's animation. So there's that. All right, I'm not done yet because now there's the ending to talk about, and the ending is amazing. So the entire ED sequence is a solo key animation work by Hitomi Kariya. And it's not just key animation that Hitomi did. Hitomi Kariya did the storyboards, animation, coloring, background art, in-betweening for this ED. So basically she did everything except the compositing and the editing, but I don't think any animator does that except maybe Shingoyama. So yeah, that's crazy. This is a solo one-man effort work, one woman. The artist for this ED is Zutomayo. And this is as much of a Zutomayo ED as much as it is a Chainsaw Man ED. Like this perfectly fits into the Zutomayo cinematic universe, if you want to call it, or Zutomayo music video universe. It borrows all the characters of Chainsaw Man and puts it into like a Zutomayo style ED. I recommend watching Study Me in particular. Study Me is awesome. It's a fantastic ED with artwork very similar to this ED of Chainsaw Man. There, the main animator was Kodai Watanabe. Kodai did an incredible job there. And here it is Hitomi Kariya. And I'm sure that Hitomi Kariya is trying to make this look like all the other works of Zutomayo. And that just complements the nature of Chainsaw Man's ED really well too. Because the artwork here is something that you would not see from the show at all. Immediately starting off, I love this 2.5D aesthetic given to it. The bubbles of light, also a really nice touch. And then we get Denji reading a book. I wonder what kind of book he's reading. He's just looking at his palm. And then we switch to power. The compositing shifts from a yellow to a pink color. Really cute moments. Look at her face, right? That's so cute. I love her face here. She looks like a character from Bocchi the Rock. This kind of almost crayon-like artwork is something you will never get from the rest of the show. And her eyes, again, just two lines here. I love that. I love when shows do that for like a chibi cutesy effect. I just contradicted everything that I said entirely in this episode. But yeah, I wouldn't like this if this was used for a comedic effect in the Chainsaw Man show. But since this is an ED, I think it works really well. I have to say that again. There are shows which do the comedic artwork implemented with the comedy really well. Like Kaguya-sama is a very good example where Kaguya's face, very similar to this face, and it's just hilarious. But you have to know how to use the exaggerated faces. Then we switch to Aki. Again, the light bubbles in the backgrounds, they look really sick. With the very faint silhouette of the buildings as well. Next we switch to Makima. Again, this is like different looking character designs, probably designed by Hitomi herself. Look completely different to the rest of the show. There's sort of like an impact frame passing through her eye. And then Denji wakes up, Domino for some reason, reference that I'm not getting, falling. Again, the layers here are great. Yeah, I love the background artwork, man. To think that Kariya did that as well. There's also another music video that looks very similar to this. I also really want to talk about that because it's very underrated. Let me find it. Oh yes, I found it. The artist's name is Mino and the song's name is Sune. Ryo is a Nakamura style animator. His best work was in Black Clover, where he pretty much emulated Nakamura style 1-to-1. He's so good at doing that. And yeah, that's a fantastically well animated MV. I do recommend you watch that. And I love the way the power comes here. Boom. Yeah, I love Power's face here. Look at this stark contrast in the way they do the sunlight compared to the show. The show has very soft shadows. Again, great background artwork. And that's it. That's the end. That's the episode. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Not much to talk about in this episode, as I said before, not compared to the first episode, which was just an entire Sakuga fest of action animation and character acting animation. Here we did get action animation of the same quality, just not the same quantity of it. Whereas the character acting just keeps blowing me away. This is character acting to the level we've never seen from TV anime before. This is character acting of the same level as Mob Psycho 100, but with much more complicated looking characters. And especially with their clothing and stuff. The characters themselves, they don't look very complicated, but their hair and clothing is what adds to the detail of it. And it's just incredible work. Just the level of detail as a whole in terms of matching the manga, the best I've ever seen is still Vinland Saga's episode 14. I might be numbering the episode wrong, but I think it is episode 14. That has the best anime artwork I've ever seen in my life. That episode was directed by Atsushi Kobayashi, and that man is a perfectionist. Sometimes to the detriment of the production because of how good this episode looked, the rest of the episodes of Vinland Saga struggled a lot to keep up to just base level quality. Yeah, anyway, I do hope that he returns for Vinland Saga Season 2 because, man, that episode, I still keep rewatching that episode and it never fails to amaze me. It's the best episode of Vinland Saga, but Chainsaw Man is keeping up that level of quality with 2 episodes now, and I'm sure it will keep that level of quality with every single one of the episodes. It does not have as much cross-hatching and character detail as Vinland Saga does, but the clothing animation and the hair animation is just ridiculous. Of course, the character acting is also incredible. I'd say it's on the same level as Violet Evergarden in terms of character acting. The difference being that Chainsaw Man also has a lot of action animation. I guess I can address some of the comments now. A lot of you want me to make Nozomu Abe's animated spotlight, and I really want to make it, but I hope you understand why I'm not making it, because I just don't have time. Like these videos, the episode analysis videos, they take a lot of time to make, and I'm already behind in terms of my schedule. I also need to make one for Mob Psycho episode 2, particularly for the ending sequence of that episode. And Mob Psycho season 3 episode 3 aired yesterday, so I probably also will need to make a video on that. By that time, Chainsaw Man's next episode will air, which the rumors has it, it's directed by Hironori Tanaka. So obviously I'm going to have to make like an hour-long analysis on it. And the episode that comes after that is apparently by Tatsuya Yoshihara. So yeah, I'm not going to get any free time. And on top of that, the next episode of My Hero Academia has a sequence by Yuki Hayashi, just looking at the sequences from this episode's preview. So I guess I'll have to make another episode for My Hero Academia where I cover the first 4 episodes. Not much quantity of animation compared to like Chainsaw Man and Mob Psycho 100. So like a video on 4 episodes of My Hero Academia would probably be the same length as 1 episode of Chainsaw Man or 1 episode of Mob Psycho 100. I also want to make a video on Bocchi the Rock. I really want you guys to know that as soon as I get even a little bit of free time, I want to make videos on original ideas of mine, like my production analysis stuff. But here, mainly I want to make Nozomu Abe animated spotlight, another animated spotlight for Masayaki Kunihiro. And I also want to make a video talking about Yuichi Terao. What else? Yeah, I'm going to talk about the past, present, and future of WebGen animation. But don't expect those videos to come anytime soon, because I'm just in a really busy period, not just in the YouTube side of things, also my personal life side of things. I'm really busy right now. That said, the next video I release might just end up being Nozomu Abe animated spotlight. If I feel like making it, I'll make it. There are also a couple of comments that are asking me to make animation analysis on Bleach, the latest season. I think it's called 1000-Year Blood War Arc or something. I don't know. I've never watched Bleach, which is why I'm not doing the animation analysis of the latest season. If I ever watch Bleach, I will maybe talk about it. As it stands currently, no videos on Bleach. Remember to rate the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also share it to people who might enjoy watching it. Make sure to comment down below, even if it's just to say hey. And a big thanks for 1,000 subscribers. I'm eternally grateful to you guys, and I owe you a big hug if I ever see you in person. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for the views.